Did you like all of those fancy things that I do for you folks? All these things that I do on Canva, by the way, everything is done on Canva. Hi, everybody. Wait, I have to find my banners because I have even fancy banners. I am Pedro. Welcome to what are we called? Selena Infinity channel. Thank you so much for watching us. For the one viewer that's watching us, I'm sure people will watch it later. It's all right. But I'm really excited to bring on my co-host for today, our guest host, Mallory. Hi, Mallory.
Hi, long time no see.
Long time no see. We never even finished we got into the middle of Omicron and then we kind of lost track of the
Yeah,
series.
yeah. There was too much going on. I was under like a million lockdowns and I just mentally was just all over the place. So I'm
Well,
good now.
before we move on, I want to make sure that we do plug in your blog. Have you been
Oh,
writing?
thank you. I have like 10 that are not finished. But like I haven't been very good at it, but I'm more active like on Instagram right now and the Facebook page. But I'm always writing stuff. But yeah, I'm terrible. I never like I just can't finish them. But I have such good ideas. I need to just sit down and do it. So yeah,
But if people want to get to
still good
your
stuff.
Instagram and Facebook, they can go. There's a link on your
Yeah.
Bitty Bitty blog page, right? Or they can
Yep.
search
Yep.
on
Just
Instagram and
look it up.
Facebook as what? As
Yeah. There's
Bitty
only
Bitty blog.
one. Yep. There's only one. So you
Right
won't get it
now.
confused.
There's
Yep.
only one right now. So today we will be talking. It's been 25 years since the Selena movie has been released. Can you believe that? 25 years?
I know. I mean, you feel really old, actually.
Oh my
It just
goodness.
doesn't even feel like an old movie. It doesn't even feel like one or look like one. But yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I think so. And it was really funny because I saw in somebody's comment, Jennifer Lopez posted about it, and they were looking at clips, and somebody commented, "Oh, J.Lo looked so young back then," and I was thinking like, oh, like that's my perception of J Lo. Like my
Hmm.
perception of J Lo is like the Selena movie, and now she
Yeah, yeah,
looks
yeah.
older as opposed to
Yeah,
she
yeah,
looks
yeah.
younger. She looks
Yep,
younger
yep,
then, so it's
yep.
kind of funny. So we're going to be talking about the Selena movie. If you folks have comments, either on the Facebook um, or you can put them through. I believe that there is a ability to be able to do it through the Facebook, or I'm sorry, not through the Facebook, through the YouTube. If you're
YouTube.
watching on
Yep.
the Facebook, go to the YouTube link, and you should be able to enter comments right there. Which reminds me, I should probably post that we are live now. But let's start off. Let's start off from the top. But before we sort of get, because I want to get into like the blow by blow, because we're good at that. We're good at like sort of being like, and then this thing was weird or this thing was great. Um, but before we do that, like, you know, you do the same thing that I do, Mallory, which is like you don't watch it all the time because you
Nope.
don't want it to get like old and stale, and that you want to know it in every
Yeah,
word.
I like to make it feel fresh, and like I don't want to like kind of like with songs when you hear them over and over and over again. You're just kind of like they don't have like that same feeling from it. So I like that. I like to get that nostalgic feeling that I used to get like when I very first watched it back in like 1997. So honest to God, I probably watch it every 5 years now. Last time I watched it before this for this show was like 2016 when I first moved into my house now. So yeah, I haven't watched it since 2016. So this was my
Wow.
first time in that long because it's just I just want to keep it fresh and to yeah,
Um,
nostalgic.
I do the same thing. We are live now. Sorry, I'm just typing on the group um, at the same time. Uh, but I do the same thing that I don't like to watch it like right like all the time. I don't watch it every year
Yeah.
for for the anniversary as some people
Yeah.
do. Nothing wrong with that,
Yeah.
but there's something for me. It was really special when I first watched it, and I wish I
Mhm.
could
Mhm.
recreate that moment where I first watched it because I was watching. I mean, what was it like for you, Mallory, when you first watched it?
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. I saw it the first day it came out in theaters. I was 12 years old, and I remember this really well. It was spring break, and I was at my grandma's, and I watched it, the first day, and I missed the first, like, 10 minutes of it, so I missed the whole Astrodome scene at the start. I
Oh
know!
my
That was really
God.
important. I didn't even know it was there. I got there when, like, the dinos were doing their things. And so I watched it. And I just remember it was such like I don't know, like a magical experience. That sounds really like dramatic and silly, but like I don't think I've ever had like a theatrical experience like that before or since then. like it really got me. Like I'm a huge am I allowed to swear? I don't know. But I'm a huge
Yeah,
stoic
it's
person.
YouTube.
Okay. I'm a hard ass when it comes to things.
Oh,
Like I
that's
don't
your swearing. That's
I
what you
don't
had
know. I
to
don't
ask.
honestly, I don't really swear in real life. That's like my swear words. So like so sorry. So I'm a huge hard ass, right? And I don't get really like sad about I don't get emotionally involved in movies. I don't cry over Disney movies. Nothing. Nothing really gets to me. But that movie, man, that hit me. And to this day, it still gets me. And I just remember I was in the backseat of my sister's car and I still was like crying on the way home, like on the way back from like, the movie. And then like I made my friends go see it. And then I saw another group of friends seeing it. So I saw it 3 times in theaters. And yeah, it was I don't know. I remember. It's like the only movie experience I remember like in my entire life. So yeah, it was a
Now,
big deal for me.
remind me, you were a fan by then, right? You had already
Oh yeah, yeah. I
begun.
remember when it was announced. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I was excited. Like, I used to watch the trailer for it. It was on the beginning
Hmm.
of the Selena Remembered VHS, and I used
Yes.
to watch the trailer over and over again. So yeah, yeah, I was a fan before then.
Yeah, and I remember watching it too, and it was because my sister was a
Mhm,
big fan. I was not a big fan. I was literally the person that was like, "How did she learn to speak English so soon?" Um,
mhm.
that and so it was really funny that they had that part in the movie because I thought, "Oh, that was me." And I remember my sister picked me up early from school so that we could go see the very first showing, which was like at
Oh wow,
1:15 or something like that, and
dang.
we got out of school at 2. So I got
Mhm.
out early, and she wanted to be the first ones, and we were two of like maybe four people that were there
Oh
in the entire
wow.
movie theater, and
Mhm.
I felt, exactly what you're describing. I watched it, and it was just sort of like, this is not what I was expecting. Like I was
Yeah, yeah,
expecting something at the quality of like Selena Remembered.
yeah,
There was
yeah.
sort of like I expected like a movie of the week kind of a thing. Um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
I did not know she was born in Texas. I did not know that. I didn't know much about her. I mean, I knew her
Yeah,
music because
me
my family played it a lot, but I didn't know much about her. And you couldn't at those times, like unless you
yeah.
were listening to Spanish meet like Spanish, like
Mhm.
yeah, there was a People magazine stuff like that, but it wasn't like as present and as known as
Mm-mm.
everything is now.
The internet was
Um,
still quiet, yeah.
but I remember at the end of it, as I was like tears like streaming down my eyes, that like
Mhm,
as I was walking out, I felt really sad that more people hadn't seen it. I felt really like I thought a lot more people should see this movie. It
mhm,
just portrayed her and it portrayed the family and the music so beautifully. And
mhm.
as I was walking out, there was a huge line of people waiting for the next showing.
Aw.
And it was the first time I had ever seen. This is in Lahaina, Maui, in Hawaii.
Okay, yep.
And it's like this tiny little theater. I think we had like three like movie theaters, like, and that was a
Mhm.
big deal because the previous one had one. So we could watch three different movies at once, and that
Wow.
was like mind blowing. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
there were never lines. I mean, because we there was always plenty of room, and so I was so
Mhm.
shocked to see like this line, and I was so happy. I saw it 7 times in the theater.
Whoa, dang, I thought I was cool with my 3.
And I did the exact same thing that you did, is that I would take different people. I
Yeah.
took I took my best friends, I took my
Mhm.
teacher, I took
Oh,
friends that
wow.
I barely knew. I found out that some people were going, and it's like, I'll go with you. Um, it's like, and yeah, it was a big deal. I'm pretty sure that in Hawaii, because she was brown, and there's so many Filipino brown people,
Mhm,
and there's not a lot of representation in Hollywood, that a lot of people in Hawaii really related to it, and more people
mhm.
saw it than would have in like less Latino places.
Yeah,
But
yeah. I
yeah,
think I
but I
was,
was
like, the
really excited
only
about it too.
yeah, yeah. I think I was, like, the only, like, non-Latino person in the theater, like, it was so full, and here's me, like, this 12-year-old, like, pale person, pale white girl coming in, but, like, yeah, yeah, it was, like I remember the studio it's not studio, the theater was packed when I was there, so
Yeah.
it was in Saginaw, Michigan, they have a pretty big Latino community, so yeah.
Wow. Really neat. Well, let's. What is it like for you watching it all of these years later? Like, so we talked about how it was for, and I kind of wanted to talk about that first, so that it's somebody out there, like, don't hate us. We don't hate J.Lo. We don't hate the movie.
No.
We don't hate Selena. Just because we might point out a few inconsistencies or things that we, you
Yeah.
know, didn't like as much, or that now
Mhm.
after all these years might appear cheesy or
Yeah.
tired because we have seen it so many times. Please, please, please know that this was a magical experience for the both of us. We love the
Yes.
movie. We love
Yes.
Selena. Jennifer Lopez
Yes.
did a fantastic job.
Oh,
Um,
yes.
that being said, what was it like, Mallory, all of these years later watching it?
I brought every time I watch it, that first scene with Selena, like, going to the Astrodome and that wispy music in the background, like the instrumental, that seriously bring every single time brings back, I don't wanna say, like, a crying feeling, but, like, like, you get all tight in my
Like a
throat and
lump in
stuff.
the throat? Yeah,
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 that's the word, I couldn't think of it. But, yeah, I got that every time, and it seriously brought back that memory, and even watching her, like, sing, "Somewhere Over the Rainbow" brought that back, and this whole watching it again just I don't know, it brought me all those nostalgic feelings, that's which is why I wait 5 years to watch it. You start to see different things that you didn't notice when you watched it 40,000 times when you were, 15 years old or whatever, but I kinda see it with a sharp like a different angle,
yeah,
but at the same time, it brings back I don't know, better I don't know, like happier times. I don't know, more innocent times for me at least. Just
yeah.
being a kid and watching it every time. I don't know. So it was a really good feeling, and I'm glad I wait every 5 years, and I'll be excited to watch it again in 2027.
Oh, that is sad. That is a sad.
I know.
Like the Olympics, except longer. Um,
But it works, man. I recommend it to you guys. Like, if you see it on VH1 for the 50th time, that week, don't watch it. Give it some time. See
that
what
is true.
happens.
Also, they cut it on these VH1s and E's
Mhm.
and wherever else they show it. MTV, I guess, sometimes shows it. But I mean, it feels like the movie's playing somewhere at some point, like all the
All the
time.
time.
And I think that we would be remiss if we didn't mention this. So Jennifer Lopez was very lucky that she got picked for this role because it
Mhm.
launched her career. But Selena is very lucky that Jennifer Lopez got picked for the role because as Jennifer
Oh,
Lopez's
good
career
point.
grew, um,
Mhm.
the Selena movie came with her. So the Selena movie
Yeah.
has gained prominence throughout these years. I don't think that if Jennifer Lopez's career hadn't flourished like it did, that as many people would be talking about the Selena movie as
Yep,
much as
yep,
they are now. So I think that was
yep.
really beneficial because I think that Selena movie is still Jennifer Lopez's best work. I haven't seen
Same
Hustlers,
here.
so
Same
but
here.
did you see Hustlers?
I haven't seen that, no. I
Oh,
haven't seen a lot of Jennifer Lopez movies, more of just, like, her rom-coms if they're on TV. Like, I don't seek
yeah,
out her movies. It's
I
kinda
haven't
like, "Oh,
even
Maid in
seen
Manhattan's
those.
on. Alright. I guess I'll watch it."
I haven't even seen those, but
Oh,
so
wow.
let's talk about this. What are your favorites? And in the audience that's watching, I see five people. Five. Oh, they just went
Ooh.
down to four. Um,
Ooh, share yours too. Yeah.
yeah, share. Let us know what are your favorite moments of the movie. What is it that you love that you still you know. Mallory, you were starting off by saying the Astrodome scene, the beginning Astrodome scene. What else? What are your favorite moments?
Oh, man. Where to begin? I already talked about the score as a whole. I think the
Mm-hmm.
musical the score behind is, fits the movie so good, so
Yeah.
perfectly. I didn't even really appreciate that till, I don't know, 10 years ago maybe? So that's a huge thing for me. As I said, that's the part that always evokes the emotions because
Yeah.
it just fits so perfectly with it. And,
And
I
wait, before
Yep,
you
go
leave
on.
from that, so to remind people that the score was actually nominated for a Grammy.
I was just
It
about to
didn't
say
win.
that. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
shoot! Darn it!
That was my fun fact.
I stole your thunder. I'm sorry.
No, no, that's okay. But yeah, that was nominated, I guess, but for good reasoning. I also loved. I think I mean, this is kind of like probably most people's favorite things is just the concert numbers. I think
Yeah,
J.Lo nailed it. I mean, I'm so like, it was such a good casting choice. The fact that they got a full on professional dancer to do the job and somebody with experience, not just because I know they had this huge casting call of
yeah,
20,000 people, and they picked the perfect person who had Selena's body type. She could, do Selena's moves and that sort of thing. But this is everybody's probably favorite scene is probably the bitty bitty bum bum scene, I think,
yeah.
with that with all the costume changes, because I think
I
it
agree.
shows all of her outfits, the different hairstyles, and to use as one of probably her most popular song. So I think probably my favorite scene. I always get really excited when I see it coming up. I'm like, oh yeah, it's coming. When you start seeing like them pull out from that San Antonio shot from
Yeah,
the Riverwalk, you're like, yes, it's
the
coming.
Riverwalk.
Yeah. But
Totally agree.
yeah, that's I think that's like my favorite part, like the climax of the movie for me is that. That's probably what it's made for. But yeah,
Yeah.
that and oh, sorry, what were you saying?
No, I wanna add on to what you're saying. I think you're right. I think that it is sort of the climax of
Hmm.
the scene because we sort of go through this really, emotional time with Chris and her and all of these things that are happening, which
Yeah.
is like the turmoil, and it really does feel like
Hmm.
the the resolution is coming, which is really interesting because it's such a happy moment, and it's sort of like you feel like, oh, that was done, but then people obviously who know
Hmm.
her story are like, wait a minute, like this is a little too happy, so it must mean she's gonna die soon. And I remember some of my
Terrible.
friends,
Yeah.
like they would lean over as that was playing, like, is she gonna die soon? And like
You're like,
with this concerned face, and it's like,
yeah.
oh, it hits you even worse than that. Like, just wait.
Yeah. Kind of goes real quick. Yeah, 'cause it kind of goes really quick after that, but that's for
Yeah,
another discussion. But I liked that, and I think I don't want to say it's like my favorite part because it sounds really morbid, but I think they handled her death really well. I think they
yeah,
did it in
I
a
agree.
very like a nice subtle way because it was still really really fresh in 1997, of course. And when they
Hmm.
filmed it, it had to been like a year and a half
Yeah,
afterwards, so that had been like right at the top of their mind. But I think they did it in such like a I don't know, like a way that it didn't show too much, but you knew what happened, of course. And yeah, it was really I think it was really well done. And of course, everybody gets sad in that part, but that was handled really well. And adding like the little tribute at the end, I think that was really appreciated. So people got to see like, oh, there's the real Selena, and it's not just J.Lo. So yeah, I think that was some of my like. I don't say that I liked her death scene the best, but like I think that was how do I say this?
we know
Let's say
what you mean.
yeah, okay. But I think they did that really, really well because I was wondering how they're going to handle that at the time.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I wrote that down on my thing. And
Mhm.
not just the whole, death scene, because you get enough glimpses where it shocks you if you don't know, if
Mhm.
you've never seen the movie before, when you see her in the gurney
Mhm. Oh yeah.
going into the ambulance and seeing the
Yeah.
raindrop,
Yeah.
and then the Yolanda. I mean, Lupe Ontiveros did a fantastic job. I mean, she did exactly what she needed to do. It's like
Oh man.
you hated her all throughout the movie without her doing very much. Sorry, my dog is in
Yep.
the back.
Yep.
Like,
I see.
I think when I mentioned Yolanda, she also got upset. But Lopi and Twitter is like she, like there's just something about her performance that makes you really dislike her without
Mhm.
being over the top at all at any
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
difficult.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep. And I.
sorry. But what I was actually going to say, that was a totally other thing, because I was actually agreeing with you that going into the real fans, holding the vigil and then seeing the
Mhm.
clips of Selena, like that is just such a
Yeah.
guttural punch. It was
Mhm.
such a, like, where particularly for most people, most fans, even really really good fans, I'm sure, were asking themselves, oh, did this really happen? Did she really wear that? Because none of us really were, there was no YouTube or anything like that, so there was,
Yep.
unless you were a really 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 hardcore fan, which I don't think there were as many, because they thought they could see her whenever they wanted to. She was so accessible, she
Yeah.
was so easy, so I think a lot of people wouldn't have kept every performance or any of those things.
Yeah.
But it was like, until you saw those scenes of her, dancing and stuff, and saying like, oh my goodness, like, and you see what a great job Jennifer did, sort of saying
Oh
like,
man.
oh my goodness, like this is, like, now I really feel like I just watched a documentary versus I was watching a movie.
Yeah, exactly. No, no, that last scene always makes me choke up, and just the fact that they give her, getting to see an audience that probably never even seen the real Selena ever.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
finally got a glimpse of her. 'Cause I
Hmm.
guarantee a lot of those people never like seen any performance by, Selena.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah, yeah, very true.
it's good. Mhm.
Um, I'll add one more favorite moment. I definitely really really liked. I really liked the beginning, like I love the Astrodome scene, obviously,
Yeah.
but even before that, sort of how they introduce her, because where I get sort of those feels is like when, like, dun, 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 dun,
That's what it
dun,
gets me.
dun, 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 and then you see her sort of like backstage,
Hmm.
and she's in shadows, and there's the purple and like
Hmm.
the things, and then there's this just sort of like little bit of a sense, because I'm thinking about back to when I was in the movie theaters, and even watching it now, that it's sort of
Hmm.
like it could be her, like that could be her, like that's not Jennifer
Yeah.
Lopez right now, like that
Yep.
in the shadows and stuff, like Selena waiting to perform, um and then they go through the entire thing, and she doesn't get introduced until like she pops out on the side, and like there's like uh something like her eyelash or something, right? Like her
Yeah. Yeah.
mom is like,
Yeah.
Mika, I found your eyelash. She's like, oh,
Yeah.
thanks.
Yeah.
And she pops out. And then sort of like you're getting slowly introduced to Jennifer as Selena. And then
Hmm.
sort of I don't know if you've ever noticed this. I hope you have,
Maybe.
because you're a bad fan if you haven't.
I've seen it
But
50.
like if it's like, what do you call it? Like a square. And then when the drapes pull out,
Yep.
it
Yep.
goes into letterbox format, like the
Oh
the
yeah.
the,
Yeah.
the curtain. I love that. I just
That's
love
good.
that. And then
Oh, I
the
never even.
entire
Yeah.
fan, like the
Yep.
fans, and then
Yep.
like then you really get the sense of like, wow, she was really loved. She was really really loved, and I just love that scene so much. Before
Yeah.
she says anything, before anything happens, just seeing the
Hmm.
fans just always makes me so 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 happy.
The fact that they got that many extras too to show up for a
Yeah,
movie shows you
yeah,
like how much she was missed, and that sort of thing. So
yeah,
yeah, no,
yeah,
that scene gives me goosebumps. She did
yeah.
such a good job on that.
All right, what else you got? Do you have any other sort of like favorite things that you want to point
Man,
to?
you're
Any interesting trivia that
oh
you have from the
geez.
movie?
I can't think of the top of my head. I know there's always interesting trivia.
Yeah.
You probably have some. I
Well,
didn't write them down. So
a couple of interesting things, because they've always talked about this. I don't think Salma Hayek was offered the role. I really don't think Salma Hayek was offered the role.
I got a
Um,
theory on this. I
I
got a
think
theory.
I think she was invited to audition. I think that's what
Hmm.
happened, and she did an audition. I think I think that's what happened, but I just cannot see Salma Hayek
Yeah.
realistically playing Selena.
Yep, yep. That's exactly what I thought happened. I thought like maybe like she was just kind of asked, not like directly like Mr. Quintanilla went like, "Hey, you want to play Selena?" Like I thought maybe like her agent or something maybe just brought it up, or kind of like you said, but for the casting call. But I don't think it was like, yeah, I don't think they were just like, "Yep, she's it. We're gonna pick her." No, I thought the
Yeah,
exact same thing. Or my other theory was, which I think has been debunked though. At the start, I used to think maybe she was asked, but it was by like another person. I heard there was like a lot of people trying to make a movie about Selena at the time,
yeah,
and I thought
yeah,
maybe it was maybe a different person and not the family, or you know, Gregory Nava or whoever's in. Well, he wasn't in charge of casting. Whoever's in charge of casting, I don't think asked her. So yeah,
yeah.
that was
And
my other theory.
yeah, I used to think that too. That maybe it was a different Selena movie that was maybe in production, but once this one
Yeah,
came out with the movie
yep,
with the budget and everything, that they were like, no, we need to do that. But
yeah.
in any which case, I mean, I don't think I've ever seen Salma Hayek dance. Like, I just don't, I don't
She
see
doesn't.
it. I don't see it. Um,
No,
yeah, I don't see it. Does anybody
probably.
out there actually believe that Salma Hayek was actually cast for the role of Selena over Jennifer Lopez, but she turned it down? I just can't believe it. And
No.
to point out, Jennifer Lopez was not very kind about Salma Hayek saying that. I think I remember reading an interview on Movie Line. It was this magazine. I don't think it exists anymore, but called Movie Line, where she like trashes every like person in Hollywood. Like, I'm sure you read the interview, like the thing she said, right?
I
Um,
don't know.
but
Maybe.
for Salma Hayek, she says something like, says it makes me laugh that she has to say things like that to get herself publicity. I don't think we're in the same league. It's like, oh,
Dang.
Jennifer
Did
Lopez
she
was
say?
sassy when she came on. She
Wait,
was very
wait, was that in
sassy.
the 90s? She said that
Yeah,
Jennifer
this
Lopez.
was
Oh, geez,
after the
that was
Selena movie.
incompetence.
Yeah,
Dang.
after the Selena movie. Yeah, she was like talking like a lot of there was a lot of pushback. She talks badly about Madonna, about like Gwyneth Paltrow, about like
Jeez.
all of these other people. I think for Gwyneth Paltrow it was something like, I can't remember anything she's been in. The only thing I know her for is for dating Brad Pitt or
Oh
things
my
like.
gosh.
But she was, I
That,
mean, she thought she was the it girl, and for, I mean, in she was right. She really did become an it girl. I mean, she was
yep,
right.
yep. The movie
Um,
definitely helped her career. She's already that confident already.
we talked a little bit about this, but let me ask you this, and let's ask the audience: how do you think Jennifer did? Um, what are and let's talk about what we think she did really well versus things that maybe
You
wasn't quite there. What I'll start. I'll start with a
can
negative thing.
start. Yep.
I'll start with
Yep.
a negative
Start.
thing. Um,
Okay. Because I couldn't find too much, but yeah.
um, the voice, like it's really obvious that she didn't
Yeah,
do
that was
very
mine.
much with her voice
Yeah.
to like mimic Selena, and
Yeah.
particularly her laugh, and it really bothers me when people say like, oh, she laughed just like Selena. It's like, no, she did not.
Uh-uh.
That's Jennifer Lopez talking. That's Jennifer. Now,
Yep.
watching it back and knowing Jennifer Lopez a lot more now, I mean, who doesn't know Jennifer Lopez now, right? It is
Mhm.
obvious that she wasn't just Jennifer Lopez, but I think she could have definitely done a lot more to
Yeah,
be
she
able
didn't have
to
like
with
a
the voice.
accent. Like she didn't have the Texas accent at all. She just, as you said, she just sounded like Jennifer Lopez from New York. So yeah, I agree with that.
There, there was
You're
one
right.
line that she did have an accent where she's like,
Oh.
"I guess I never really had a normal childhood." It's like she
Oh
tries,
yeah.
like she tries, and that's like the only time in the entire movie that she has like
Sorry.
it. It's several of my friends in different times that I went with them turned over.
Sorry.
They're like, "Does she have a southern accent?"
Yeah.
and
There
and
was
and
an
I thought it was
attempt.
funny. It's like yeah, like Selena was from Texas. Like she had a, I mean, she had a Texas twang. I don't know if a Southern accent is the right term for it.
It's
It's like a Texas
Texas.
twang. Like
Yeah,
it's
it's
a
definitely
it's its own
Texas.
Texas. Like it's a little bit more nasally and a little
Yeah,
like
yeah,
cut out.
yeah.
But anyway, so how about you? Let's start off with the bad, and then we'll go with the good. What
The
else do you have?
bad. That was all I honestly with her. The
Oh,
probably
really? That's great.
I just couldn't stand the way she talked. And well, this was outside of her job. I think a lot of her lines were corny, but that wasn't Jennifer Lopez. That was the script.
Yeah, yeah,
So I think honestly, I had mostly positive things. I was just bugged by the way she talked mostly, but not bugged. I don't want to sound like I was just sitting there like cringing, but I just wish more effort was put into the accent, and that was about it. Like I couldn't find a lot. And I really tried to think critically last time I watched it because I was trying to do it for this, and like I'm like, she did a pretty good job for not knowing of Selena for that
yeah,
long. It
yeah,
wasn't like Selena was known for 20 years and there was YouTube videos and stuff. Like she had to go by home videos and talking to her family, and she did pretty good for probably like a few months of research and just videos. So
yeah, yeah.
honestly, I think she did really, really well. Unless you're probably going to ruin me on this, though. I'm sure. I'm just going to point things out. You're going to point things out, and I'm going to
Uh,
watch it again and be
well,
like, "Oh,
I have another pet peeve, which is I didn't notice it until I saw Christian Serratos do this perfectly. The hand on Como la Flor.
oh yeah."
It's
You
not
told me.
it's not just this like like
I can't
circles.
even do it.
It's this very like it's almost like she's picking flowers or something. Like
Hmm.
it's a and I didn't notice how
I always try to do
intricate
that.
it was until I saw Christian do it, and I was like, and then I went back and looked at the Astrodome, and I was like, oh, and I was like, wait a minute, how did Jennifer do it? And then I went back and looked at
Hmm.
Jennifer, and she just does sort of like a generic hand twirl,
I can't
and
even
in
do
this
it.
and in the same thing. So because because one of my favorite things is the dancing, but one of the things that it's like there's this dance moves that she does in La Carcacha where she like flips her head like cuatro tres dos
Oh yeah,
uno, and then she like
yeah,
yeah, and then it's like why did she do that? Where
like
did
that.
that come from? I've never
Yeah,
seen Selena sort of like
she
shimmy.
must have just went off. Yeah, yeah. She must have just went off and did her own thing. Got really into the
Yeah,
song and just did
yeah,
it.
got really into the
But
carcacha. But anyway, those are the only things that I'll say about Jennifer. I did think her acting was great, and I think that every reviewer that came out of that movie said the greatest. Even if they didn't like the movie,
hmm
they liked Jennifer Lopez. They liked her portrayal of Selena.
yeah, she got a nomination, I think, for a Golden Globe for
Golden
that.
Globe, yeah,
Yeah, I think.
yep,
Yeah,
yep.
yeah, but she didn't win. But
No,
still, I think that was well earned though, for sure.
I agree. And in looking now at like the people that get like the guy who played Freddie Mercury, and they're like putting like, oh, he deserves an Oscar nomination because, and I believe he won the Oscar because it's like, look, side by side comparisons to how he did the concert.
Hmm.
It's like, has nobody ever heard of Jennifer Lopez and Selena? Like, she did
Yeah,
a pretty darn
those
good
dancing.
job. on
Mhm.
those recreations. And you're right,
Mhm.
like there wasn't much to go on. She had to really just study and study and study and study as much as she could. Um,
Mhm.
but
But
continue with your good things about Jennifer.
um glad to go for it. I think that's everything. I was just talking about like all I had was positive things. I was just so glad they didn't pick out some random from Chicago with no dance experience to do this and things like that. So I have no like I think I can't imagine any other person than Jennifer Lopez for this. Like she was like born for that role, I think. So
Yeah.
like the same exact body, everything. So yeah, I have like that was like my only complaint. Like I don't even know if I could say anything else because like everyone's seen it so much. Like she's just yeah, it was perfect, I think.
Yeah, and I think so many people. I mean, and it became so emblematic for her because for a long time, I don't know if you remember this, like she didn't really talk about the movie. She didn't want to talk about the movie, and I think it was
Mhm.
because like she would do interviews and stuff like that where she would not talk about the Selena movie at all, and I always found that peculiar because I would think like, why wouldn't they be talking about this? Like it's like they people really want to talk about Anaconda, like that's like this is her big like her little part in Jack with
Anaconda.
you
Yeah,
know
yeah.
so like it's like that's what people want to talk about. But I think she conscious and there were a lot of fans who would like give her grief about like she should be more thankful to Selena like because she launched her career and stuff.
She does.
Um, and well, she in that, but I think that for a while she wasn't because I think she was
Oh,
afraid of being seen as Selena because she was, for a lot of people she was Selena, like she was as close
yeah.
as it got to, and I think it would have
Mhm.
been really easy for her, as many people who have been around in Selena's life, to just be defined by that, um,
Mhm.
to be defined by like because you have that all the time, right? Like I mean, Chris is selling hot sauce for God's sake, um, in like little holsters, signed little holsters. And I'm sure that that's a stretch from the movie. Yeah, I'm sure he likes hot sauce, and maybe he did have the little holster, but I'm pretty sure he wouldn't be doing that if it wasn't because the
Well, that's from
movie
my
showed it. So, and there's tons of people like that, like who like their big thing is like they're part of the Selena movie somehow. So
yeah.
I think Jennifer Lopez did a smart thing to not let herself be pigeonholed into
Yep, yep.
playing like Latina type of characters, and then went back and sort of paid homage to Selena in the movie and how important it
Mhm.
was for her. Now that she
Mhm.
sings in her concert, she always sings a Selena song. It seems like, or
Yeah,
try,
yeah.
in her own Jennifer Lopez way. But
Yeah.
it's nice that she does that she does ring tribute to
Nice.
Selena. But anyway,
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, overall, she's perfect for that. So, yeah,
all right. So
definitely.
let's talk about this
Go ahead.
then. Besides Jennifer Lopez, what are the parts of the movie that you don't like, that you think don't stand up as well all of these years later?
Like, oh, okay. Oh, sure. Give me just a moment. I something that really bugged me about the movie, even like all the years I watched it, was that I feel like 70% of the movie was just about her and Chris together, or like, like the battle between her and Chris. I mean, maybe I'm exaggerating. It wasn't 70% maybe, but I feel like a huge part of the movie was. And I don't know, I feel like they could have focused more on other parts of her life, like her. I mean, I guess the series covered it, which is really I was really thankful for, but they wish they covered more of her early career, how to get the record label or even like her boutique time. But I feel like so much time was spent with her and Chris. And I felt like a lot of the scenes with Chris were really corny and weird. Like the one with them going down the dock and talking, like when they're just, what I'm talking about? That scene where they're
Oh,
talking
I
going down the dock.
definitely. There's a
Okay.
line. There's a line from it that I put down as
Oh,
one
I
of
know
the
exactly
worst
what you're gonna
lines.
say.
Is
Oh, I know what you're gonna say, but
I
I'll
hope
let you say.
the wait. What is because I wrote it down exactly. I wanna.
Is it the "I love you" part?
Well, that no.
I don't
I
know, that
mean
whole scene. That whole
that
scene is
I
weird.
do think yeah. It's just like it's like
I love you too.
he says something like, "Remember that night by the trash." Remember by the trash cans.
Yeah.
Um, and like it's like by the trash cans, like that is the
Yeah.
and that he's trying to be really romantic, and it's like is like this just like ruined my mood of like, first of all, I
Yeah.
wasn't picturing that they were by trash cans when they were over in the
The
loading area
hotel.
of the
Yeah.
hotel, but it's like that's the most uneloquent way that could
Yeah,
possibly
yeah.
put that night.
I just found
Remember
that
that?
whole scene so unnecessary. Like it added nothing, I feel like, and it was just kind of like, okay, here's the making out now. Like I don't know, I just didn't understand like the point of that scene. Like we already knew like they were like all about each other, and it was just I don't know, that added nothing. I did not like that scene. I still don't like that scene, and I get kind of like if I'm with somebody watching it for, like the first time, like my husband, I remember like I almost get like a little bit of secondhand embarrassment because I just think it's such like a weird thing. It's so
Oh,
corny. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I find it real corny.
so for
And
me, that scene is the for me this that what you're describing is that up on the roof. The like, Selena, what are you doing up here? I'm looking up at the moon and I'm dreaming about.
about
It's like, oh
it feels
my
like I'm
gosh,
watching a
like,
play.
yeah,
Yeah,
it
yeah,
just
yeah.
feels
It's
like
not
it.
naturally talk. That's how people talk. People don't talk like that. That's the
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
It doesn't come
And it's
across
like,
as natural.
well, and you can tell they're just like trying to like shoehorn in dreaming of you.
Dreaming of you.
Like
Yep.
I'm looking up at the
Real hard.
moon and dreaming. Like,
It's like,
like
wow.
what little girl think like says like I'm dreaming as
Yeah.
I look up at the moon? Like, it's like, come on. And then Selena seemed
Yeah.
like she was kind of a tomboy, so I seriously doubt
It
she was like be talking about like dreaming up at the moon,
yeah.
and
It
imagine
yeah.
herself being famous. Like, I don't
Yeah.
see that.
Yeah. I yeah, that scene's a bit corny too. But yeah, I don't like that scene. And I don't what is the other thing?
Well,
Chris,
before we
everybody
move on though,
oh.
because I think we need to point this out. Um, a lot of people who grew up with it when they were like little kids, I
Mhm.
think like it was like, oh, it was like the most romantic and most beautiful thing. So we don't want to ruin your childhoods
Oh, sorry.
because when you
Maybe
were
I'm
like
just a
2 years
cynical
old,
person. I don't
yeah,
know.
you have
I'm
two
trying not
cynical
to.
people. You have two
Yeah.
cynical people that are talking about the Selena movie. So you're gonna get these
And
kind
I've
of
seen
like corny,
yeah,
and
and
we've
I've
seen it a million times. Yeah.
yeah.
So,
I still yeah.
but
So
for those of you that were, as you were growing up, you were like, oh, that's the most beautiful
yeah.
romantic thing by the ducks. It's okay. You're allowed to feel that too.
Yep, that's fine. I'm not judging
Sorry.
you, I promise. But
Yes.
just I always find it corny. So and it's because also I said like I feel like people don't talk like that a lot, and that's my thing with movies. Like I just didn't feel natural. Maybe people
Yeah.
do talk like that. Maybe my husband don't. I don't know. So it's just weird. So yeah, I didn't like that. And just the Chris character overall, I like him, but I don't want to sit here and like, oh, I'm going to compare it to the series because I don't want to be that person, but I
It's
don't like the way
impossible
they
not to.
portrayed Chris. I know. I tried not to, but now that you have something else, you're just kind of like, oh, I kind of like that Chris better. But like, I
Mhm.
don't like they made Chris like I remember you said this like when we did our little thing before. They kind of made Chris dumb. It felt like kind of like an airhead more in this movie,
Yeah.
and I didn't like that as much. So I mean, he did a good job. The actor's fine. It was fine. I just don't like the way he was portrayed as much. He just seemed
Yeah.
kind of like the kind of like I don't know, like I don't like it.
No, I mean, I
And
totally agree. It's this like surfer, like it's this
for
like
that's the word I'm looking for.
sure, like it's like what?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but
Oh man.
was Chris ever grow up next to a beach surfing? Like, it doesn't seem like the type. He's such a quiet and really sweet, like has such a sweet,
Hmm.
quiet demeanor to him, and they really
Yeah.
lost that. And I'm
Very
so
quiet.
surprised that they did that
Hmm.
because like he lived with the guy, like he could
Hmm.
see like what a sweet sort of
Low
soft
spoke, like very
spoken.
quiet,
Yeah,
soft spoken. That's the
yeah.
word. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I think they nailed that in the series. I really,
Hmm.
and how young he was. I realized like in the movie he seems a lot older. Like he seems
Yeah.
like
He looks like he's
um
30 or something.
yeah, he's a little bit more of a bad boy. Like, yeah, he had
Yeah.
a rap and a history. He was a rocker, but he's still old. Chris has always come across as like this really sweet guy, and
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
yeah, I think I and if you notice that the surfer thing like kind of stops midway and then he never brings it back. Like
That's true.
by the dumps at the hotel, like when they're talking there,
Made
like
him
he
grow up,
stops having,
man.
yeah, made him grow
Yeah.
up, and now he doesn't talk like a surfer anymore, which is really funny. I mentioned that to Trey as I was watching, and he said, "Hey, he never uses the accent again." And he's like, "What accent?" I was like, "That surfer accent." He was like, "Oh
Hmm.
yeah, he does kind of sound like that, huh?" But anyway,
People change, man. I guess. But yeah, it's
continue.
yep. Um, let's see. And oh, the thing that bugs me now with Selena as a character is that they made her with no faults. They came like there's you don't ever see any sort of bad side to Selena. Like the worst you see her is probably like her yelling at Chris. and I'm not saying like, of course Selena was a good person, of course she was, nice, but I'm sure the once again with the series, they kind of they show her in some real life situations, of being stressed out or, you know, um, angry
Being a
and things. And
baby.
this yeah, exactly. And like even his book talked about that. She was very like, I don't want to say, you could tell she was the baby of the family kind of thing. She got what she wanted, that sort of thing. Once again, not a bad thing. It's just Selena's personality. And in the movie, they just, I don't know, they don't show like she comes across as perfect. She does no wrong in the movie at all. I guess if
Mhm.
you call eloping wrong, but it's not really. But yeah, I just wish they showed more of Selena as like a real, like a person, or more
Yeah,
humanized her more. That's the word I'm looking for.
yeah.
So
And
yeah.
I'll piggyback off of that because this is one of the things that I have is that they just didn't show the struggles. And for me, the real big part where they just
Hmm.
really didn't show the struggles is the English record deal. I mean, it was like the
Oh yeah.
through line through the entire series,
Hmm.
like this record deal, this English record deal that they wanted, and that it was finally coming true. And that's what makes the story so tragic.
Hmm.
It's like this huge dream that she had had, but it seemed like in the movie, it's just like the record producers just kind of show up and give her one record deal, and then they give her the English record deal because she's just
Yep.
so great. When in reality, she had to fight so hard for that, and the family
Yeah.
had to fight so hard for that. And it's a point of prejudice and racism that they faced too, because they was sort of like she was being held back because they didn't think that a Latina would be able to
Yep.
make it. And
Yep.
so I think that even that Tejano stuff, like, oh, women in Tejano don't make it, it's like two lines and then it's done.
Yep. Yep.
And
Yep.
then it's sort of, then she goes being to be like the most successful woman ever,
Yep.
with absolutely no faults. Yeah, so a little bit of having her as a flesh and bones person, as a person who had to deal with difficult situations and how she dealt with them would
Hmm.
have been really nice. I agree.
And with the, there's that one deleted scene, or maybe it's in the extended version. I can't remember which one, where they show them getting like the record deal. I'm not really sure how that would fit in the movie, but I wish they would kind of show that they did have her. I don't know, like they would show something like that. But I mean, I can understand why they deleted it because it's kind of random. But I don't know, at least could show, like you said, like their struggles and them getting, oh, now they got a record deal. But instead, yeah, it's just that one guy showing up during San Antonio being like, "Yep, she's ready," So I wish they kind of I don't know how you can put that in a 2 hour movie, but I wish they somehow put that in there of her getting like the EMI deal.
I know how they could have cut that
Okay.
entire part out of Abraham. And now that I watch it again, like that's always been my least favorite part.
Oh yeah, see,
Is
I don't even
is
remember it because I don't like
Yeah,
it.
it's
Go
it's
on.
my least favorite part of the entire movie. Like, I
Mhm.
don't think it's needed. I do think that it. I mean, I think they do a good job. I think it does set up the some of the stuff. But it's like a
Mhm.
simple shot of him being a musician on a photo would have sufficed. Like, okay, he used to be a musician. Got it. Like that's all we
Yeah.
need to do.
Takes like
That's all
10
we need to know.
minutes.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so I in a lot of the young, like, I feel they spent too much time on young Selena. Um,
Mhm.
like, it was cute, and it was like, like, oh, here she is with April, and I did love, seeing, young Celine and all of that. But in thinking of how much more they could have filled out the movie, I would have been happy losing more of that if we got to see more of the conflict and successes that she had in real life as she got older. Like, I would have, or a
Yeah,
teenage
like
Selena or something.
yeah, as I was gonna say, like late 80s Selena during like her independent record days kind of thing. Yeah, like trying to get like
Yeah.
a record deal. Yeah, I liked that. But yeah, you're right about that first scene with Abraham and things. Like they could have just casually mentioned it, like somehow worked it into like a dialogue of like, oh, back when you were a struggling musician. I don't know, something like that. Like they didn't need a 10-minute story of
Yeah.
him being
And it was
rejected.
about 10 minutes. So we could have gotten those 10 minutes back and showed the record deal, or showed the fight for the English album,
Hmm.
or, the stress that she went through to get her boutiques in places. Like, they just
Oh
magically
yeah.
appeared. Everything just
Yep,
magically
yep.
appeared for Selena. She never had any trouble. And they even talk about it. They even, like, you know, they compound it by saying, like, they have that whole scene where Selena's dad is telling her, it's like, all these barriers that our people have been through, and for you, it's like they don't exist. And I think that does a disservice for how working Selena was. um,
Yeah.
how working the family was. You really don't
Mhm.
see as much of like as you do in the series, which I here I am comparing it to the series, but about how much they actually struggled, how
Yep.
unglamorous her life really was until the
Mhm.
tippy end, where she was just getting to really delve into that success.
Yep, yep, and just how much she worked until the very, very end.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But you think, yeah, as you said, like, things just happened and, like, all of a sudden it's like, "Oh, we're going to the Grammy Awards. Okay." Like, I didn't really notice that until, like, the last couple of times I watched it. I was just like, "Oh, well, I guess she's nominated for a Grammy," you know? They don't really
Hmm.
explain that. And
Yeah.
speaking of sorry, this is a random thing, how they don't explain things. I didn't know until the last time I watched it, like 2015 or whatever, 2016, that Sarah and Deborah were 2 different people. I thought they were the same person, and they don't explain who it is, and then, like, I was talking to a friend, and he's all like, "Oh, yeah, they're different people." I was like, "What?" And I was like, "I don't know, they just kinda pop up, and never see them again." Sorry, go
Well,
on.
I didn't know that either because I hadn't paid attention to that other woman
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
in that scene.
Yep.
I always thought that that was Deborah, but it's not. It's Sarah.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, yeah. So I always thought that the
Yeah, same
we don't need
person.
the dress uh, cousin is Deborah, but she's not Deborah. She's Sarah.
Sarah.
The
Yeah,
cousin
Sarah's the
Deborah,
cousin.
they're both real people. Sarah and Deborah are
Yeah.
real people. But the reason why this became a thing was because first of all, one of the cousins like posts a lot of things like she posts rare pictures and stuff like that. So
Oh,
a lot of people
Sarah.
follow
Yeah, I
her
think.
on Instagram. But it's like when Sadie Lopez, the person who played
Oh,
Deborah,
yeah.
became Marcella. The people were saying like she played Deborah. And it's like no, she played Sarah. It's like wait, what? What do you mean she
Maybe
played
that's
Sarah?
when I
Who's
figured it out.
who's Sarah?
Yeah.
It's like no, she was Sarah. Deborah was a different person. It's like who was Deborah then? It's like she has a tiny no lines, just a tiny little walk
Just
by.
mentioned. Yeah,
Yeah,
basically.
she's
Yeah.
mentioned. So I think that's when it became conscious because true. It's like when I was like, oh, she played Deborah, and somebody said no, she played Sarah. It's like who's Sarah?
Oh, good. I feel so glad I was on the only one because I think that I was watching it for like 20 years and I've seen it 50,000 times that I'd not put that together.
Yeah.
But anyway, I just thought that was funny. They never explained who it is, and you're just like, oh, okay. Guess that's who they are. So yeah. Anyway, that's a side note of I guess that's a least favorite thing. Just the no explanations. Things
um,
just happening.
I have something that I liked that a lot of fans don't like is what I
Mm.
hear, and I'd be interested to hear what you think. A lot of a lot of people don't like the "I Could Fall in Love" recording scene, and I couldn't remember why they didn't
So
like it. And this came up, and I remembered why they didn't like it. They said that Jennifer Lopez does too much with her lips,
yeah,
that
she's like
she's like, yeah. Um, I enjoyed it. I actually really liked it. I thought she was really into it. That she was
she's
lip syncing
trying.
so
Yeah.
well. And people are like, "Oh, that was like the worst lip sync she did in the movie." And I thought, really? I was I
No.
was I was really surprised about that. What
Yeah.
did you think of that scene? I thought it was
I
lovely. I
like
really
that
liked it.
scene. I like the idea of it, and I like the setup and everything. That never really bothered me, the lip syncing part. Like, I didn't really notice it until like I think I saw a TikTok or a Instagram or something of somebody making fun of that. And I never noticed it before, and I was like, oh, yeah, she does overdo it a little bit, but I don't get the big deal. I think it's a really nice scene, and I think it's a good way to, to show her working on her English album. Like I didn't know that was like a controversial scene or whatever. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't
Well,
get the big deal.
yeah, yeah, I never understood that. I mean, I'm way more bothered by J.Lo's laugh than I am by anything she did. Like, actually, in mimicking Selena. I do have one scene that for me was like such a huge deal. The Si Una Vez scene, when they come back into the
Oh, yeah,
concert, and now we've gone through, full circle. Um,
yeah.
and to me, in that moment is when I became a Selena fan. Like,
Oh,
I felt like I was watching Selena,
mhm.
and like that. I had never heard that song. I had never heard Sina Vez, and if I
Yeah,
had, I definitely hadn't heard the live version where she just stops
yeah,
and does that, and I was just like, oh, like I just
yeah.
felt this like wave come over me where I was like, Saint Selena has just blessed me, and I am a new. I knew I anointed Selena fan, and I went home. I listened to that song on repeat. I just loved it so much. I
Yeah.
thought her voice sounded perfect, and that was like my entry into like just really, really loving Selena's voice. But it like that was the moment in the movie, and to this day, I will love Jennifer Lopez forever because she introduced me to
Yeah.
Selena's performance in that way. To
Mhm.
appreciate it, that she didn't deviate at all, except maybe from
Yep.
grabbing the mic, and her face was always a little too hard. Selena didn't
Yeah.
did a lot with her eyes. Jennifer did a lot with her forehead. Um,
Mhm.
but um, but to me, like the fact that they went, moment by moment by moment, and that I could watch the
Mhm.
Selena concert and be like, oh, this is exactly how she did it. Like they didn't overdo it. They didn't like dramatize it.
Dra- Dramatize? Is that the word?
Dramatize it.
Dramatize?
Yes,
Is that
yes,
I don't even know if
yes,
I said it right. I could
yes.
see the word in my head, but I'm like, how do you pronounce it? Anyway,
They
yeah.
didn't dramatize it too much. They followed everything perfectly. I was like,
Mhm.
oh man, this is a seamless transition into being a Selena fan. Because if I love the movie, then I love
Mhm.
the real Selena.
Yep, yep. And that's actually the first time I heard that song was from the movie because I didn't have the once again, forgive me for my Spanish, armo prohibido. Sorry if I say it wrong.
Prohibido.
That's the first. Yeah, I can't. I have no accent. That's the first time I heard that song. 'Cause I didn't have that album yet by the movie. When the movie came out, so it was like the first time I heard that song. And so yeah, it's a great song, and she did such a good job on it. And yeah, like yeah, no, I like how you put it, like, you must, like, feel like the presence or something, not to, like,
Yeah.
make Selena a religious figure, but yeah, it's probably
At
I
this
think that's
point,
probably well, kinda, but, yeah, that's I think that's, like, the one where you can actually feel, like, I don't wanna say Selena's presence, but yeah, for sure. I 100% agree with you on that one.
what else do you have on your notes, Mallory?
What else do I have? Oh, I know we can talk about is oh man, I could make like a whole like 4 hour thing about this, but I won't. But just like people always go to the movie in regards to like accuracy and this is how things went when there's so much in the movie, and I don't want to be like I I look at it for fun, like what's inaccurate. I don't get hung up on it or anything, but there's so
Yeah.
much in the movie that's not accurate. I would say there's probably like most of the fine details aren't accurate. The things
Yeah.
that don't even matter, they don't add anything to the story, but there's a lot of inaccuracies of like how, the style of her hair at the time or like the
Mm-hmm.
outfits that she wore in that era and like the timing of her things with her career in regards to the songs that she's singing. Once again, it's things that don't really matter in the long run of the story. Like, oh, she's wearing the white beaded outfit in like 1992, 1993, and she wore it in 1994. Things like that doesn't matter. But like, there was just I think they just wanted to showcase as many outfits and, things like that as possible. But there's a lot of like details that are 100% accurate, such as like singing Bailas de Cumbia in like 1989
Mm-hmm.
or singing No Me Get a Mas or Bitty Bitty Bum Bum. I think that was probably like 93 ish when that's supposed to take place when they were singing
Yeah, because
that
it
at
was
that
right.
time.
It was right after
Just
they got married, right? And before the Grammy.
yeah.
Well, the Grammy was
Mm,
'94, so technically it
But
could be like early '94. But I think you're right.
yeah, things like that, and like playing Bitty Bitty Bum Bum when she's getting the Grammy, and that song
Yeah,
wasn't even, and like the speech, things like
released.
that were accurate. But in the end, it's like things that are so that don't matter. And so a lot of inaccuracies with that are like Susie and Pete at the Astrodome. Gosh, I
Yeah,
can go on and on. There's like
yeah.
so
It
many
did.
things.
There's so many, and you're right. And it always bothered me that the fact that they had the family right there, so they could have easily, like, asked them, like, "Oh, is this
Yeah,
how?" But I think what we saw, and I do have a problem with the movie about this, is that we saw a curated Selena. We
yeah,
saw like the highly polished, the I'm sorry, but that little cut, the where they introduce her, like that's not at all her, like wow, like that's she already looked very beautiful. She was already very elegant by that point. She
yeah.
was there was like before I call it her crystal ball outfit where she at the Tejano Music Awards where she looks like a crystal ball and with her
Yeah, yeah.
what she's saying when you keep no what is she singing?
The big
Estoy Dame un beso, I think.
Okay.
I think
Yep.
that's what she's singing. Um, but um, but it's like they needed to show a little bit of that. Like most people don't even know that that part of Selena exists. Like they're
Yep.
just so. And I know I was shocked when I was like, "Who is this like
Big
teenager
perms.
with perm and like this like
Mullets.
fried hair and things like that?" Um, so yeah, so I agree. It would have been nice if they paid a little bit more attention, and then it becomes more remarkable when you see what the series was able to do, which was like
Mhm.
pretty accurate from beginning to end. Sure,
Mhm.
they had we could and we did nitpick a lot of
Yep.
smaller things, but in like the costumes, the
Yep.
shoes,
Yep.
the time eras, the songs that she sang at
Yep.
at the times, the like all of that was
The
so
outfits.
super
Yep.
accurate. Yeah, and
Yep. Yep.
it was really neat what they were able to do to like how
Mhm.
much attention they paid. Now, mind you, these were people who didn't know Selena, who are going by pictures and blurry photos. The people who are
Mhm.
working in the Selena series grew up with Selena as a little kid. Like they watched those videos a million times, right?
Mhm.
So they knew exactly what kind of shoes she needed to be wearing and all of those kind of stuff. And
Mhm.
um, so I think that they're, in the Selena movie, a year after she was gone, like a lot of those details didn't seem as important.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's like, now with YouTube, I can go back and like look exactly, be like, nope, Jennifer's not wearing the right shoes at the estrogen scene. Hers are wedges. Those are not heels. Whereas like back then, nobody would have been able to even
Well, nobody would
think that they
know.
could go back.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. She just basically had like the 1994, 1995 look from like 1992 onwards, basically.
yeah.
I guess her hair was back in a couple of them, but like, yeah, she looked like the Selena that we knew in like 95, basically the whole
Yeah,
movie.
the
So,
whole movie.
yeah. Yep. So
Yeah,
that
I
was
agree.
something that kind of, I didn't really notice that till like later on, obviously. But as I said, it's not, I think their whole point was just trying to tell her overall story and just, see all her looks and outfits. But I don't think, yeah, that kind of bugs me sometimes, but not important.
I want to say so. I want to mention something that is so nitpicky that I shouldn't even say
Oh
it.
no.
It's like
Oh,
it's such a nitpicky thing for Jennifer, that it's. I found it in my notes just now. I wrote all sorts of things that I'm not even mentioning because it's just too silly. But the that she's smiling while she's singing "Como la Flor," like in the club scene where it's
oh
it's
yeah,
the
yeah,
person
the
with
cow
with
outfits.
the confident, like she's like "Como la
Yeah,
Flor," smiling.
yeah.
Selena never sang on
No,
never smiled on "Como la Flor." Like
it's true.
she might have, because it's a painful song, and she would always act her song. She always would portray the songs the way that they were, and it's hard to kind of smile and sing sad. Like you could tell when Selena was singing happy, and you can tell when Selena was singing angry, and you could tell
Yep,
when Selena was singing sad. Like no matter if you knew the language or not, and it's because she
yep.
used her entire face, her entire.
Hmm.
And so Jennifer Lopez sort of smiling through like "Como la
That is,
flor," like it's like
you
it's
are
it
being nitpicky. Yes.
that is
I
it is
never even
such a
thought about
nitpicky
that.
thing. It is
Dang, I
such
never
a
even thought
nitpicky
of
thing.
that.
Well, and I didn't notice it until like many like that. I thought, oh, Selena
Hmm.
wouldn't have done that. She wouldn't have
Yeah.
smiled through Como la Flor. She's never smiled through Como, except for that break, the one obviously in live where she like smiles. But um, anyway, and also very nitpicky. And the only reason that I'm being nitpicky about this is because what I read in a People magazine article when they were covering the behind the scenes for Selena was that
Yep.
a lot of they had a lot of reporters in the building as the movie was being shot. There were a lot of people that were interested. And so Premiere
Yeah.
Magazine, which was this huge
I
magazine,
remember that. Yeah.
and People Magazine both had articles like being of art of reporters that were behind the scenes, and in both of them they pointed out times when like the family tried to step in and like that they were like,
Yeah.
So one of them was that Mrs. Quintanilla told Mr. Quintanilla like that's not how Selena held her microphone. And because
Hmm.
Jennifer, if you notice, she always kind of grabs it like it's very tight, like it's gonna
Hmm.
fall out. And Selena held her microphone very loose. It was like
Yeah.
she had kind of like a pinky up, and it was like a very loose kind of
Hmm.
holding. And I don't know why but that's the way she held it. And it's always bothered me when I see Jennifer like with the tight
Hmm.
grip, only because like Mrs. Quintanilla was ready to be like, no, that's not how it was done. Um,
Dang.
and then the other on Premiere Magazine. the thing that Mr. Quintanilla tried to step in and say that's not how it happened was when the stage was collapsing. He explains,
Yeah.
I did not go out there. They did not leave the stage. Selena refused to leave the stage actually, because she was afraid for the audience, and
Yeah.
they tried to get her off stage, but she didn't want to, because she
Yeah.
was afraid. And instead, she calmed them down. Um,
Yeah.
but um, but
What
that
concert was oh sorry.
I don't
What
know. I
concert was
don't
that
know.
based? Because I saw like a clip once of like the people getting
Yeah,
close. You know what I'm talking about? I don't think they were basing it off that one because it
I
played
don't
out
think so.
differently.
I think that probably happened often. I don't think it was probably
Okay.
one concert, because that just happens where people push in and they
Yeah,
stay,
yeah.
with no security. So, and in that clip that I saw, like, she doesn't look scared or anything. She's just sort of like,
Nah.
all right, everybody, like, I need you to back up, come on,
Yeah.
like, we need to back up, and then we'll continue the concert. Um, so I'm sure that they're trying to picture like the first time that might have happened, but then Mr.
Yeah.
Quintanilla tried to tell them like that's not how it happened, and it's like
Yeah.
it would have been more interesting and more empowering to see Selena be like, "No, I'm not leaving the
Yep.
stage." Like
Yeah.
yelling back at her dad, like, "No, I'm not leaving." That her dad was like, "Get off the stage," and she was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
"No, I'm not getting off." Um,
Yep.
that
Yep.
would have
Yep.
been a really cool scene, and I don't know why they didn't just show that.
Probably drama. They wanted to add like an element of like
Yeah,
suspense. I guess not suspense. You know, just something to. Yeah, I think it was just for drama. So,
true,
in my
true.
opinion.
I wanted to ask you this. Have you ever talked to, well, have you experienced fans who have seen the movie all these many years later? Like, have you shown it to other people now that you're like this big Selena fan and know everything about the stuff, and like, have you shown it to other people and
Oh
experienced their
God, it's been
emotions?
probably the last. Oh man, I brought my friends when I was like in seventh grade to the movie theater. I don't remember what they. I remember I got no, no, no. I remember bringing them and nobody really cared. They're just kind of like, oh, it's nice, and they knew I liked her. I made my husband watch it in 2011. He liked it. He's now. I mean, he really likes Selena now, but he was kind of like iffy with the movie. That's a part of being married to me. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's what I was imagining. I think all
he
of
did,
our partners, any of our partners who are super fans, either learn to love Selena or they find their way out the door.
Yep, yep. So no, actually, what made him like her was the that album that came out in 2012. I always call it EDT, and I can't say the
Enamorada
words
de ti. Mhm.
"Enamorada." That one. That's what actually made him like her because he liked like the modern versions of it. But he really like he thought it was like he said it was better than he thought it was going to be because he thought it was going to be kind of like a Lifetime movie. But he was all
Mm,
like, "Oh, that's actually pretty good." He was all like, "It was really well made, and like the acting, the script was good for the most part." But he liked it a lot. He liked it more than he thought he was gonna like it. My friends didn't really. They were just kind of like, "Oh, that's nice." They knew I liked her. But I think I got one of my friends really sucked in was because I made her watch. I used to have like VHSs of bootleg concerts, and in
we all
19
did. We
around
all
nine,
did.
I know, like in '99 or something
Yeah.
before like the Astrodome came out on DVD and VHS. I had it like the original airing, and I made my friend watch that as a kid, and it made her a fan. And we actually went to the Selena Museum together, like in 2013. So I guess
Wow.
I did my job. But other than that, like I haven't. I've showed it to friends, but they're just kind of like, oh, it's nice. But like nobody became like a huge fan over it.
Mm-hmm,
But
mm-hmm.
but I'm glad like they became a fan because they watched the real Selena as well. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And I've
Mhm.
had similar experiences. I mean, I think almost exactly the same thing about my husband liking Selena now, whereas like before we bonded because his dad really loves the movie. Like his
Oh,
dad would
okay.
watch it every time. He's like, and then because like he mentioned something, like we were on one of our first dates, and he said something like, "Oh yeah, my dad's favorite movie is that Selena movie. He watches it every time." And it's like, can I meet your
You're
father?
like, oh.
Like, you need to bring me over to meet your parents. And yeah, and he said, yeah, she's such a good girl. It reminds me of my daughters. I've always enjoyed.
Aw.
Whereas my husband would say, I think he has a crush on Jennifer Lopez. Is what's going on. But according to
Hey.
to to my husband, is that like he grew up with the music. He said, oh yeah, they started getting her CDs, and after the movie, watched the movie, and they love Spanish music now. And so he was familiar with the music, but like he's really familiar now, like really
Yeah.
familiar now. But yeah, I don't have any fans that I'd say I would turn into big fans, but
Yeah.
you get them to appreciate, and
Mhm.
to say like, oh, she was a really good, she was a really good singer.
Yeah.
She was a really talented person and such a nice person.
Mhm.
It's like that's enough. That's all I care about. You get why I like
Good.
this person.
Yeah, yeah, and, like, it's a good introduction to, like, her music as well, like, just, like, the basics, like, the basic good song, popular songs. So, it's done really well on that. So, yeah, no hardcore fans, but, you know, I haven't met anybody who was just like, "Oh, that movie sucks," or anything like that. If anything, there's always been, like, an appreciation for more
Yeah,
appreciation after seeing
I
it
had
with it.
I had one person who like in the first 20 minutes was like, oh yeah, it's like this looks like it had a low budget, and I was like,
No. No, it
what?
didn't.
I mean,
I
it
think
had
it
a
was
perfectly acceptable,
20,000,000.
20 million. It
Yeah,
had a perfectly acceptable budget. And it's like,
yeah.
and then he
No.
said something like, "Is this show in the United States?" And it's like, "It's a show in the United States." Like, what? And I was like, and then I turned it off. I was like, "Oh, we don't have to watch it. We can watch something." He's like, "No, I want to finish it." And I was like, and I was thinking to myself,
Yeah.
like, "You don't get to watch Selena
Yeah,
with
yeah,
me
appreciate
if
it.
if
Even
that's your if that's your
low
attitude."
budget. No, no, that
Yeah.
wasn't low budget at all. So,
I have a tip. I have a trivia thing. Did you know Grupo Fuego? It's Los Agues. Uh, that the main guy, the one guy that they keep showing,
Yeah.
is Selena's cousin.
Oh, I did not
He's
know
Selena's
that.
cousin, and he actually wrote that song um, that they included in the soundtrack, in the Selena soundtrack. Oh, we should talk about the soundtrack before we finish,
Ooh,
because
oh, yeah.
that's a whole other aspect. But he wrote that last song where they had all those artists like Vivirás, Selena,
Like
um,
Jennifer
Vivirás,
Pena and
Vivirás.
stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Jennifer
yeah.
Peña and the Barrio Boys and stuff sing at the end
Yeah.
of the Selena soundtrack.
Oh, he wrote
Um,
that.
yeah, he wrote that, like they performed it with his group, like his that group is an actual group, Los Aguas, and
Oh,
we would perform that for his cousin Selena, and so they included them as Grupo Fuego. And there's a whole bunch of like little cameos from different people. There's Isaac Quintanilla in one of the deleted scenes with when he's like Abraham is trying to get a job. Abraham is
oh,
trying to get a
yep.
job at the chemical
Tower.
plant, and like they're
Yeah.
like, yeah, they're like, no, you're overqualified.
Mhm.
And so that's Isaac Quintanilla, who I believe is then later played on in the movie. I think he's the dad of Sarah
Oh,
in
yeah, 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 I think so.
yeah. Well, it's one of the brothers. He has several brothers. So one of his brothers. So, but the brothers in
Yeah.
the movie, and then
Yep,
the other
yep.
person is the her seamstress, um, where
Where's she at?
they're doing the ring thing. That they're like, oh,
Oh,
Yolanda,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
she's like, I know the perfect ring. Um,
That was a great
so
Yolanda impression.
yeah, the person who's saying the lines is playing her seamstress, but the person that's standing next to her who says the lines is the actual Selena seamstress.
Oh,
Yeah.
I
So
did
there's
not know that. You're
a
full of
few.
all sorts of fun facts today.
I am. And if Sylvia were here, she would know. She knows even more than. I mean, I'm pretty sure that I've learned a lot of this stuff from Sylvia because she's been such a long term fan. But
Mhm.
yeah, yeah, all those little things.
Little Easter
Um,
eggs in there.
yeah. Anything about the deleted scenes? Because there were some deleted scenes that were added back in, and I don't know if you
Or
were in the
you
United
got 'em
States
there.
when this happened,
I
but
was.
the first time that they showed it on TV was on ABC,
Mhm.
and it was a big deal because they added some scenes
Yep,
that
yep.
weren't seen in the theatrical. And so I remember I thought this was really amazing because it was like being advertised forever, and I thought it was so
Mhm.
amazing because usually they cut them even further
Yep.
to show it on
For
TV,
the
and here they
TV.
were
Yep.
adding stuff, and then they had Chris Perez's music video at the end for "Best
Oh,
I
did
Can."
they?
Yeah,
I didn't
at
know
the very end.
that.
Yeah, it was a really cool like just little addition. But there were a few, so there were a few scene scenes that are added in the 20 in that movie, in that TV
Yeah.
one, and then the 10th anniversary, and then subsequent they've shown them. But then there's some deleted scenes that never made it out of like
Yeah.
the editing room that were just put in the extras
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
What did you
The
think? Anything that it needed, or do you think any of them should have been on?
the only ones that I liked that I think maybe could have fit in the movie was maybe the one where he's talking about not wanting food stamps. I thought that
Yeah,
fit with the movie. I don't know why they I think that would work really well. It was a good scene too. And the one where, as I mentioned, them I don't know how it would fit, but I just really like the scene where they get the record deal. But the rest of them, like Selena getting like bullied, I thought that was kind of weird because I never really heard of her being like a bullied child.
I
And
thought so
like,
too. Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if they were just trying to add that to add more sympathy for Selena or something, but like, I thought that was really weird. And the whole scene doesn't fit with anything. And the one where, what's the other one? I don't, the AB and her in the
In
limousine.
the
I thought
limousine.
that was, yeah, I don't think it was bad. I liked kind of when I watched it for the first time. I thought, oh, that's a good point. Like she's not going to be with their family anymore, and that's a a good discussion to have. But that scene goes on for like I swear like 10 minutes, and it's just kind of doesn't go. I don't know. It's just a lot
Yeah.
of just back and forth. But I like the idea of it. But like the one, and I know you're going to agree with it. Is the Yolanda and Selena when Selena like falls and she like looks up and it's like Yolanda is so. I'm sorry, it's stupid. I'm just gonna say
It is.
I'm not even gonna be nice about it, which I'm glad they got
You
rid of it.
you know what's funny is that they would show that clip in like some promos that like because there were a whole bunch of
Yeah.
Spanish TV specials when the movie came out, and they would
Hmm.
show that like Selena falling to the ground and like looking up, and I would always think like, what is that from? Like
Yeah.
what is that
Did
little
I
clip
imagine
from?
that? Yeah.
Yeah, and and yeah, it's. I heard that was true. I think I can't remember. I think somebody talked about that in one of the books that yeah,
Hmm.
Selena fell down and Yolanda like didn't seem concerned until somebody else showed concern.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
so, but yeah, but I wouldn't. I would have hoped that if that had happened, if they had put it in the movie, it would have had better editing, so it wouldn't have
Yeah.
been so quite so clunky.
It
Um,
didn't look. It just looked
but
cheap in a weird. It just looked like a
yeah,
Lifetime movie kind of shot, and
yeah,
I don't know. I don't think it felt. You didn't give a good feel of like how Yolanda was. I thought Yolanda was more of like a she kind of came across as like a needy kind of person, kind of like how the series kind of put her. Like she seemed more like yeah, needy, not so like a villain.
yeah,
Like they made her like to
yeah,
be a villain in that, and it didn't. I don't know. It just didn't give me the Yolanda vibes.
yeah,
So I don't know.
yeah.
I'm
Like
really glad they got rid of it.
she seems harmless. I mean, it's what it is. Like
Yeah.
in life and in the movie, for the most part, and in the series for the most part, she seems harmless, and that makes her
Yep.
be
Yep.
like like too foreshadowing. Like, oh, look at
Yeah.
evil Yolanda. Um,
Like, oh,
it,
she's gonna
it
do it. Yeah.
yeah, it takes on to a
So
different kind of movie.
yep, didn't like it. So those were my favorites. Oh, and like I think it was like an edited scene, like I edited, like I don't even know if it's on the DVD. I just saw it on YouTube where they extend her. I like this scene, but it may not have fit. But when Selena's little and she's singing Corocito, I can't say Corocito, Corocito.
Hmm.
There's a scene of her just like singing it almost all the way through. And it's like a cut scene. Oh, it's on YouTube. Go find it. It's like from the editing room. Yeah. Hey, maybe you learned something from me.
Wow.
Yeah, and I don't know if
Yeah.
it's Jennifer Pena or Selena singing it, but she's singing it, and it's like the people dancing around at the carnival, and I liked that just because I love
Oh
that song. Yeah,
yes,
they cut
I
it
have seen it. They cut it.
probably like
They did that song called La Manzana instead
yeah,
over it. But yeah,
yeah, but
yeah, you're right. They're
originally
in the
was
sparkly,
Codicito.
right?
Yeah, yeah, and there's like the little spinny thing, and it goes to
Yeah.
that scene where then it spins and then goes into the Bailes de Cumbia. But yeah, I like that because maybe just because I love that song. That's like one of my like literally that's like my top 3 Selena songs, and I don't think it gets enough love. So it's such a cute song. But I wish they did that just for me though. But that's like a edited, not even on the DVD edit. So yeah.
So just before, I mean, because we've been talking for over an hour, and I can't imagine
Oh
anybody's
geez.
actually gonna want to watch all of it. But about the soundtrack. So I remember this about the soundtrack. I remember getting the soundtrack at Sam Goody's, no, Tower Records. It was a Tower
Yep.
Records, and it, that's where I got this the CD, and and they had all of Selena's albums, and up
Hmm.
until that point, I had never seen. 'Cause again, I grew up in Hawaii. I had never seen a Latin. There was no Latin section in the music
Yeah.
section. There was like
Yep.
international, and you see some
Yep.
like Luis
Everything.
Miguel, and next to some sort of like sounds of pan flute from you know Mallorca or something.
It's
You
funny,
know,
it's true. Yep.
yeah, and like there were like one maybe, and so
Yeah.
I remember going to Tower Records, and they had like all of Selena's songs at in like a cut and like a display, like at the end
Oh,
case.
wow.
But even more than that was that when I went to Kmart, they had this like huge display with like like paper flowers that spelled out Selena,
Aw.
and then it said like "Gone but not forgotten." Oh no, we'll never
Aw.
forget you. No, "Gone but not forgotten," and then said "We'll never
Okay.
forget you." And I thought, "We'll never forget you." When did the people at Kmart in Hawaii know her? Like, like, like what is
Well,
this?
now
Like,
they but now they're familiar with her. They saw the movie, so
yeah, but they would, in those times, particularly in Tower Records, they would put like on that store what was their number one sold album. Like they would rank them like as
Oh
like
wow.
here, and the Selena soundtrack was like number one.
Oh wow.
For our
Thank
store,
you.
as was the VHS when it came out on Blockbuster, where they would have like the top rented movie. It
Yeah,
was a
yeah, they
whole
did look to the
wall
wall.
of the
Wall.
movie.
Yep.
Yeah, and
Yep.
all of
Yep.
them were
Yep.
out. Like I had to go like drive to so many Blockbusters to find one copy
Oh
of it.
wow. I
But
think because I was like from Cornfields, Ohio, so nobody cared but me. I was middle of like nowhere, and like I just got it like at Walmart, and it was just there. And yeah, I have no fun stories from that time.
but what did you think about the soundtrack? And especially thinking back, because I thought it was odd that it included a whole bunch of songs that weren't in the movie.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. And then why did they split up the disco medley? Is what I want to know. That was always weird too. I guess because it was a long song, but like there was no purpose of like having like the first part of it. Then I think it's "Where Did the Feeling Go" was after it, and then bit back to that song. I don't
yeah,
know. It's weird, but I think I like that they included songs that weren't ever uh, shown on other albums, like the "Is It the Bee"
is it the
and
beat?
"Where Did the Feeling Go." And is that it? Oh, A Boy Like That, which was just on
A boy
that
like that.
West Side Story
Hmm.
album. But I think I like it, but you said it's kind of weird they had like those songs that weren't included, like the what is that weird song? It's like number 10 on the album or 11.
I can't
The
believe that you're.
One More Time, I think it's
Oh
called.
yeah, yeah,
What was that? I don't know.
yeah,
But I mean, it's
yeah.
nice, but it didn't belong. But I
Uh,
think overall, it's a pretty good soundtrack. I mean, for a
yeah,
soundtrack.
I agree. I mean, it's a pretty good album, I should say. It's a bad soundtrack
Yeah.
in that, like,
Oh. Oh yeah.
it didn't follow the movie,
That's
or
true. It didn't
like
have some
put
songs.
like it didn't have some of the songs. Like I don't think it
El
had like
Chico
Amor
della Cinco
Prohibido.
Doce. Yeah, they didn't have that either.
Yeah,
Because at the beginning of the mall scene, they have El Chico della Cinco Doce.
yeah,
It's not on the album.
yeah.
Yeah, and
So
they didn't have that.
I
Yeah.
mean, if it was a real soundtrack, they would have had like Ya Se Acabó, like they would have had like all of.
Oh
But it
yeah,
was,
you're right. You're
but
right.
they treated it, I
An
think,
album.
like an album, and I think
Yep.
as an album, it was cool. I never liked the and even the doo-wop. Like I was like, oh, I don't mind this. Like I don't mind the
Yeah.
doo-wop. Um, but I didn't like the last two songs. I didn't like the tribute
Yeah.
songs. I
Yeah.
thought they were a little odd. But I loved A Boy Like That. I loved Is It
Oh,
the
I love
Beat.
it.
I
Yep. Yep.
loved like all of those kind of stuff. And then I'm still obsessed with the remixes that came out for A Boy Like That.
Oh
Um,
gosh, they're so good.
then
There's so many of
yeah,
them.
yeah, there's so many of them. Um, Years later, I got the vinyl and I would pretend to DJ, but all I would do is put A
Oh
Boy
no.
Like That, the remix, and then I was done.
Like, get off the stage.
Yeah, like I was like, I just wanted to play that for everybody. I feel like you should know that
It's a
there's a
good
dance remix
song.
to this. Yeah,
And like the
but
disco medley is really not disco medley, the cumbia medley is really good too because you get like a nice little
yes,
intro of each song. It's really well done. So yeah,
yeah,
I think good album. Okay, I think I'm gonna join your side. I think it's a great album, but yeah, soundtrack it doesn't really fit for a soundtrack.
yeah.
But
And we should point out actually that I believe this is the only album that it's the remastered versions that aired on the movie. So the music in the movie is not the same as what we hear in Selena Live, or even though it's taken from the Astrodome. If you listen to it, they they
yep,
they change the backup singers, they change the
yeah,
instrumentation. I don't even think it's the Dinos playing. I think they add things like trumpets to the bitty bitty bum bum. Like it sounds more like
yeah,
trumpets than the synthesizers. The bass is
yep.
stronger, so it to me, and Selena's voice is really strong in it. I was actually disappointed when I heard the disco medley from. I know a lot of people love the disco medley, like true what it sounded like, but I think that
Yeah.
there's like I, the backup. I've never thought Freddie and Don were the best backup singers. Uh,
Oh, a lot of people
God bless
agree.
them.
It's not
God
like
bless them.
they're
But they
good
couldn't keep up with
dancers.
Selena.
No, no,
Pete
I don't
could.
think that. Yeah, yeah,
Pete could
yep.
keep up with Selena. Pete could definitely, but I don't think that they were. But they were great dancers and they were great to look at. Like they were nice. They were nice people and they look. They were, oh, which
It
reminds
looked
me, I did
cool.
want to bring this up. It must have been so weird for Dawn and Ricky to be on stage
Oh yeah.
at the Astrodome, where
Mm-hmm.
a year before they had been with Selena, and then as the lights go down and Jennifer Lopez, everybody talks about the
Oh
family, but
yeah,
the family, and then Pete was also on stage in the movie, but he wasn't there, so he wouldn't have had these
yeah,
feelings of like the same way as Don and Ricky, who played themselves in the movie, would
yep.
have had sitting there in their same spots with all of the people
Oh
screaming, and then Jennifer Lopez walking up the stairs, and then Selena's voice
yeah.
coming up and it's like, "How you doing, Houston, Texas?" Which she
Oh,
did
I couldn't
every
handle that.
time. Like I can't imagine, and I wish somebody. I've never seen an interview with Ricky or Don about the movie. I mean,
Nope.
there's been a few interviews with Ricky, but I would love to. I mean, obviously we can't talk to Don anymore; he has passed away. But would love to listen to Ricky and be like, "What was that like for you, Ricky? Like sitting? He's
Oh.
the only person alive that has been on stage with Selena at the Astrodome in '95 and with Jennifer
Hmm.
Lopez at the Alamo Dome in the Recreation in
There's
'96."
yeah, I understand like Chris wasn't on set for like basically the whole movie, and I completely understand because there's no way like somebody who like I was married to, like just think about it like recreating their
Yeah,
lives like a year later and
yeah,
like being in that I couldn't emotionally, I don't know how they handled that. Like I couldn't do it. I couldn't. There's no way I could do that. So yeah, good job to them, I guess, for like doing that and having like a breakdown, I guess. But yeah,
yeah.
that had been tough. But it was so fresh. It was like they probably filmed that like what, like a year and a half later or so. So yeah,
Hmm.
that's
Yeah,
nuts.
and so yes, I was that will always stick with me, is that I wonder what it was like to be on that stage and hear that music, and I must say here because we didn't talk about any of the other characters other than Jennifer Lopez. Um, the and I love this comment that just came in from Boy123 that says that the unedited version of Selena walking into the Astrodome makes you feel like you're there yourself. It definitely does it, and I
Yeah.
love watching. I love watching videos where they show like people reacting to Selena, like they're hearing it for the first time and they see her come in
So,
through with the carriage and stuff.
hmm.
It's always like, wow, it's they always comment on that. They always comment on like
Yeah.
how amazing it is. But
Oh.
anyway, um, I said something and then I forgot what I said.
Oh, the
Like,
characters. We always focus on
oh yeah,
Jennifer Lopez. Yeah.
anybody else that stood out? I love Abraham Quintanilla.
I was about to say that
I,
he's
I,
my
I
second
mean,
favorite.
yeah, definitely he did a fantastic job. And from what I understand, Gregory Nava's vision of the movie was to see this through his eyes, through Abraham's eyes.
Oh
And I
wow. Yep.
kind of get it because we have that, thing of Selena, and then the first character we see is actually Abraham, and we see that sort of like wishing, like squishing, like kind of like time at the beginning. Um,
Hmm.
um, at the beginning, it's and it's almost like he's remembering, and then we see him
Yeah.
walk into the dressing room. So I think maybe that
Yeah.
was his way of to say
Definitely
like
did.
this is how he remembers it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but anyway,
That's a good
who else
interpretation.
did you
But I
like? What
think
else did you think?
oh, Abraham. I liked how Edward James almost like got his mannerisms down, and like the gum chewing, and how he just like he's watch even he does this now. He just stands a lot like this. Always like you can't get him to smile very often. Even now,
Yeah,
like when you see him smile in photos, he's always just like
like
just straight faced stoic. But yeah, he did such a good job. Like it was very believable. And I know he had to gain like weight. I think it was like 40 pounds for the role too. So good for him.
yeah,
Did really good. And then, oh, and my other favorite, sorry, because we're going back to characters real quick, was I think Becky Lee Meza was really, really good for having no experience
no
and basically
experience.
never do anything again. I think she did good for like zero experience, and she like I don't want to be like, oh, looked like her, but she really did look like her. I think she
She did
captured
look like
her
her.
a
Yes.
lot.
Yeah,
Yeah, as a kid, a
yeah.
lot. So they were probably like my favorite actors, I guess, in the movie, other than like Jennifer Lopez. So
I
yeah, I think
definitely,
they did a good job.
for me, it was definitely Edwin James Olmosy. I think he should have been nominated for an award for that, because if people
Yeah.
understand exactly like the mannerisms that he picked up, the fact that he gained all that weight, the fact that he
Hmm.
changed, the way that he behaved, because that's not Edward James Olmos at all. I don't
No.
really see Edward James Olmos at all. Um, but um, but the other the ones that I really didn't like, where I did not like Marcella's character. Um, I did not. I mean, it's very obvious that it's gosh, what's her name? What's the actress's name? Um,
Constance Marie.
Constance Marie. Like once you see
Yeah.
Constance Marie's on like the George Lopez show and stuff, it's like it's just Constance Marie, and like they like it's just Constance Marie,
She
and
looks
she was
doesn't look
obviously too
older.
young. Yeah, obviously
Yeah.
way too young for the part. She auditioned for the part
Yeah.
of Selena, didn't get the part of Selena, so she's going to play her mom. That makes no sense. I get it
Yeah.
that they wanted to have her be really pretty at the beginning and then sort of age her up, but it does.
Yeah.
And Sadie Lopez does such a fantastic job, I think, in the series of just
Hmm.
bringing this warmth. And Selena in the movie, so Marcella in the movie is like this spunky, like, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
I
That's
tells it
true.
like it is. And like
She's
Mrs.
very
Quintanilla
soft
is like,
spoken. Just barely
yeah,
talks. Yeah.
yeah. She's so. I mean, it's such a different.
But-
Um, and then thinking like about how much AB and Suzette disappeared, like in the movie. Like once they were in kids, like we barely see. Like we see Suzette like doing this at the Grammys, and we see a little bit of AB, but I mean, I actually really, in seeing the movie again, I actually really enjoyed learning about the other people in Selena's life, because Selena makes more sense understanding her world around her. Like these were what her brother was. Her brother was grouchy. Her sister was, too
Mhm.
self-involved sometimes in her own life. She was,
Yeah.
growing up. They were very different in ages, whereas like the kids in the movie, they're like
Oh
basically
yeah.
like a year
Yeah.
apart.
Yeah. 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 They're all
Um,
like the same age. Yep.
so
Yep.
so yeah,
Different parts of their life. Yep.
yeah. So it would have been nice to see a little bit more, than just like then they became perfect siblings and they had no problems or lives of their own. We never hear that AB married at that
Yeah.
point, and
And he
Selena
had
has
kids
nieces and
and
nephews and
yeah.
stuff like that. Like we
Like no
never we
character
never
development.
yeah.
There's no development. It's just like, oh, well, I
It's
guess they're
really
there.
just it's really just Selena and her dad that receive
Yep.
the only treatment. And
Hmm.
and can I just say, like, AB, gosh, what's his name? Also, like, it's just that actor. Like, there's like I don't see any AB in
Nah,
in
I think
in
AB
the
is really
movie.
hard to like nail or something because he's. I don't know. Like, how do you play
He
AB?
has no he has no distinguishable. He
That's
kind
it.
of
Yeah.
speaks slow and he
Yeah.
kind of looks down, but he certainly isn't this
Yeah.
wiry. Like, come on, Dad, we gotta take it to
Yeah.
Mexico.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
not like that's
The series was
not
same. I don't
AB.
think nobody can get AB down.
Yeah,
So yeah, they're
yeah.
completely different kinds of ABs, but yeah, it was fine.
What my husband pointed out, which I thought was funny, was he said, "Wow, Suzette was kind of a snot in both the movie and the series, like when she was little, huh? Like she was the
Yeah.
whiny one." And I was
Yep.
like, "Oh yeah, that's true. She is
I think
sort
she
of
was
like
in
the
real
like."
life though.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. And I'm glad that, particularly when she had more to do in the series, she didn't portray herself as a saint, particularly when she was younger, that she was sort
Yeah.
of the whiny, like, I don't want to do this, I hate this
Hmm.
kind of person. Um, I thought that was kind of neat. I said, oh yeah, that's true. That is kind of the way they portrayed it in the movie. They're like, hello, hello. But anyway, all right, Mallory. I think
We
we've
get
come
you.
to anything else that we didn't cover that
I'm
we
going through my notes. I guess
that you were trying
overall.
to talk about.
Oh gosh, I could. I've seen this movie so many times. I could talk about it for like 6 hours. Um, the overall with like the legacy, I think the movie. I honestly think the movie is probably like the biggest contributor to her legacy. Like people say her music and stuff, but I don't think without the movie, I think a lot of people still wouldn't know who she is if we were just still playing, with the music. I think it exposed a lot of people to like Tejano music who would never have heard it in their life, like me. um, I think it played. I think it played a bigger role than I don't. Oh, that's kind of controversial. If it made a bigger role than Dreaming of You, like I think because it's on TV all the time, people watch it, everybody knows about it, and I think most people probably after 1997 know about Selena is from the movie.
Hmm.
and yeah, that just from being on cable 75 times a week.
Yeah,
So yeah, I think that was probably the biggest contributor.
I agree. I would agree with you, and I would say the only thing that I would add
Hmm.
is that if they didn't have the source material, like that was Selena. Selena did sing those songs. She sang that well. It was her voice that was booming out of the
Hmm.
movie theaters, and Jennifer Lopez did a fantastic job in capturing Selena's, particularly in that Bitty Bitty Bomb Bomb scene. Like, to me,
Yeah, it's
that's the
perfect.
epitome of like she did her job. That little click, that like when she talked, and like dun 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 dun,
Yeah,
whoa, like
yeah.
the kick was great. And so to a lot of people, what the movie did was just portray Selena as she really was. I mean, yeah,
Hmm.
there were a lot of inconsistencies and all that, but the essence of who
They don't know.
Selena was
Yeah, yeah,
was
that. Yep,
was in the movie, and people liked that. And so
yep.
it's not like other movies where they say, well, that's not at all how they were, though. Like, they were actually really hard to work with, or they were actually really difficult, or the movie just yeah, it sanitized the her life as a whole, but I think
Yeah,
as the spirit of who Selena was, and her talent, and why so many people loved her, is there for full view. And so I think you're right, is that it introduces. I mean, nobody's just going to look up Selena videos for no reason.
yeah.
Particularly back then, nobody's going to pick up an album. It's like, I've never heard of this person, and I don't know if I'm going to like this, because you had to like buy them. You actually had to buy. You couldn't
There's an
stream them.
investment.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So you would buy stuff that you liked, that you knew. Um,
Hmm.
and so the Selena movie really introduced the country into Selena the person. And I've said this in a couple of my other videos, and in what it showed, it put the emphasis from how she died as into how she lived.
Yeah.
and
Yep. Yep.
and, and that was a really wonderful way
Hmm.
for it to do, is that people became interested in more in Selena, about who she was as a person, and
Yep.
than just how she was murdered. And there's many, many, many artists who are never going to get away from sort of how they die and their
Yeah.
murder, and neither is
It's just
Selena in a lot of
yeah.
stuff. But by having that movie, it really provided a bigger insight into people, other than just a headline that they saw in People magazine or the Inquirer or something.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's just the fact that 25 years later, it's still introducing like little kids to Selena. Like, I can't think of any other movie or artist even who has been away from us for this long that, little kids are, getting into it now. And like, you don't get that with like as much with like, I don't know, Kurt Cobain or something, or like Elvis or something like that. Like, so,
Yeah.
and I think the movie is basically responsible for that, seeing her there. And
Yeah.
as you said, it generates interest. Like, oh, I'm going to go to YouTube now and look for her videos. So yeah, it goes from there.
Yeah, I agree. I agree that
Oh, sorry.
if it wasn't for the movie, I'm just putting up people's comments that they're that
Oh,
they're that
sorry.
they're
Yeah.
putting up. Yeah. Um, if it wasn't for the
Cheers.
movie, I think a lot of us. I mean, I still, for a while I had this love-hate relationship with Jennifer Lopez, and that was, that's another thing that I think a lot of fans felt. They wanted her to be Selena. They wanted her to just do more Selena things, like do more Selena things. We want you to do more Selena
Yeah.
things, like, and that's it, because it felt like we were, you know, conned into believing she was Selena and loving her, and then she wasn't Selena, and it was like, no, we want you to be Selena, like we want you to do. But I'll always be grateful to Jennifer Lopez for the work that she put into this movie, because if Jennifer Lopez had not done a good job, then it didn't matter.
Oh,
None of it would have mattered. But Jennifer
yep,
Lopez did do a good job, and if it
yep,
wasn't
yep,
for her, then the movie would have flopped. I
yep.
think that the people would have continued to love Selena.
Mhm.
People who. But if the movie hadn't done well, if Jennifer Lopez hadn't done her homework, I think the movie wouldn't have. And even if the movie had done really well, if Jennifer Lopez hadn't done her homework, and just, let's say she went off on her own, she didn't follow the steps the way, that she just kind of,
Yeah.
then it just wouldn't have felt the same. It wouldn't be the
Yep.
same.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
The fact that we're still talking about it 25 years later and it's going back into theaters next month,
Going
like
back into
that's a
theaters,
huge
get your
thing.
ticket.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
Definitely
all
not
of you
playing
out
here,
there,
but
for
yeah.
all of you who are able to see it, get your tickets.
Oop. Oh, I lost you.
Here we are. Can you hear me
Oh,
now?
hi. I can
Yeah.
hear you.
But
But for those of you that get to see in the movie theaters, go watch it. Those concert scenes are amazing in the big screen
Mhm.
with the surround sound, Selena's, um, the Bitty Bitty Bomb Bomb scene in particular, all the
Mhm.
color and everything. Go see it. Go see it if you get a chance. Don't think it's like, oh, but I see it on TV or I have the DVD. It's a different experience in the movie theaters. Go see it
Yep. Be
if you
around
have
all
the
the people.
opportunity.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep, yep.
So with that, thank you everybody. Lots of there's comments coming in as we're
Aw,
getting ready to leave, of course. But thank you everybody for watching this. It's been like over an hour and a half.
gosh.
I imagine we
Didn't
had a
feel
lot
like
to say.
it.
I
Yeah.
imagine we had a lot to say. We should do more of these, Mallory.
Yeah,
Now that
I'm
now that
I'm
we
always up for it. Now I'm
wonderful.
in
Let
better
us know in
place.
the comments if what you would like to see. What you would like to see. Oh, um, we do have to remember this too that Jennifer Lopez did
Oh,
get a lot of criticism
yep.
when she played the part, and
She's
it's
Puerto
real. Like
Rican.
it's not just like, oh, they're blowing it up. A lot of people criticize. I remember thinking like, who is this person, and renting Jack to see what she looked like. And I
Yeah.
wasn't even a Selena fan like back then, but I wanted to see who this person was going to play Selena. There was a lot of scrutiny on
Yep.
her, as there was on Christian, um,
Mhm.
and she held up. I mean, Jennifer Lopez
Yep.
held up. I mean, and she thrived. But all right, thank you so much, Mallory. Appreciate it so much.
You're welcome. I had
Always so
fun.
good to talk to you.
You as
And
well.
thank you, everybody. Don't forget to subscribe and do all of those things that YouTubers ask you to do. Check us out on our Facebook group, Tejano Rose. Mallory and I are both there. We're both moderators along with some other wonderful people. I want to remind you
Mhm.
to please, please, please check out Bitty Bitty Blog, which is Mallory's blog, and also linked are her Instagram and Facebook, which are fairly active. And I
Yep.
think that's all the things that I have. That's Mallory, our guest host for today, and I
Hi.
am Pedro. And thank you so much, everybody. Bye, Mal.
Thank you. See ya. Thank you.